Counterattack against China's sanctions? Rumors circulate about Foxconn's 5-day, 8-hour work schedule. Double 11 sales figures shrouded in mystery, signaling potential imminent changes. Stunning statistics shake CCP leadership, Beijing abandons East rises, West falls narrative. It's all covered in today's China Truths. Counterattack against China's sanctions? Rumors circulate about Foxconn's 5-day, 8-hour work schedule. In the context of Taiwan's Foxconn group facing a tax investigation by the Chinese authorities, the recent news of Foxconn adopting a 5-day, 8-hour work system has sparked intense discussions among mainland Chinese netizens. Some have suggested that it seems to be Foxconn's retaliation in response to the CCP's punitive measures. While Foxconn has not officially confirmed this shift, content circulating on Chinese social media platforms like Douyin, Tieba, and Xiaohongshu suggests that factories in locations such as Kunshan, Chengdu, and Shenzhen have already initiated the implementation of this new policy. Some workers have reported substantial reductions in overtime hours within their departments. Certain individuals believe that a 5-day, 8-hour work system could alleviate workers' stress and afford them more time to enjoy life. However, many workers express concern because a reduction in overtime equates to a significant decrease in income, making it challenging to cope with the continuously rising cost of living. For instance, a Foxconn employee calculated in a video that if the 5-day, 8-hour work system is enforced, workers would only receive a basic salary of 2,360 Chinese yuan per month, approximately $325.07. After accounting for expenses such as accommodation, meals, and provident fund contributions, the actual disposable income would be only 1,400 yuan, approximately $192.84. Reports indicate that Foxconn workers' salaries comprise 3 components: basic salary, overtime pay, and allowances. To maintain a basic standard of living or save money to send home in major cities, monthly income needs to be at least 4,000 yuan, roughly $550.96, or more. Achieving this goal requires workers to put in around 90 hours of overtime per month. Implementing a 5-day, 8-hour work system would signify a significant reduction in wages. However, a video on the Douyin account Chengdu Foxconn suggests that the overtime control hours for Foxconn this month have already been disclosed, with an upper limit of 68 hours. The video urges viewers not to believe, spread, or create rumors, attempting to dispel speculation about the 5-day, 8-hour work system. Presently, verifying the authenticity of the 5-day, 8-hour work system is challenging. However, some analyses propose that the news of Foxconn implementing this system may be a strategic move, potentially in response to recent extensive tax and land audits conducted by the CCP on Foxconn. Furthermore, there are rumors circulating that Foxconn is trying to dissatisfy its formal employees and draw public attention, possibly aiming to find a middle ground in negotiations with the Chinese government to ensure the fulfillment of its relevant demands. At the same time, it underscores the significance of Foxconn's employment and economic contributions in China. According to the Apollo News, the Chinese government's recent scrutiny of Foxconn has resulted in a suspension of trading for the group's subsidiary companies in the stock market. Double 11 sales figures shrouded in mystery, signaling potential imminent changes. Double 11, the largest annual shopping festival in China, despite high expectations for e-commerce this year, has been notably quieter compared to previous years, reflecting economic challenges in China. Nearly a week after the conclusion of the shopping festival, e-commerce platforms like Taobao and Tmall have yet to disclose the transaction volume. A previous survey by the American firm Bain & Company found that 77% of 3,000 surveyed Chinese consumers stated that their spending on Double 11 this year would be lower than the previous year. This has led to speculation that this year's Double 11 sales may be disappointing. Ms. Gao, a practitioner in the Chinese insurance industry, expressed that perhaps it's due to a change in people's mentality. She used to actively participate in live broadcasts, but it seems she is not very interested anymore. Commentator Wang Yi remarked, "People now have no money in their pockets, and they expect that they won't have money in the future either. Even if I have money, I won't spend it, I want to save it up." This has led to a phenomenon of overall weak consumption in China. Chinese people have a very pessimistic outlook on the future. Many consumers have observed that numerous businesses are also facing a survival crisis, attempting to revive their prospects through Double 11 sales. This has resulted in the significant discounts of previous years turning into consumption traps. Even Li Jieqi, the top seller in mainland's live streaming e-commerce, saw his Double 11 sales volume nearly halve compared to last year. Foreign media points out that the current softness in Chinese consumption is linked to the real estate crisis, rising youth unemployment, and deflationary pressures, dispelling the myth of the lipstick effect. The term refers to an economic theory that suggests during tough economic times, consumers may cut back on big-ticket luxury items but still indulge in small, affordable luxuries, such as lipstick. However, one Sichuan resident said that in fact, it's not just Li Jieqi experiencing a decline in performance, all e-commerce platforms have seen a significant drop in transaction volume this Double 11. The big reason is that people just don't have money. With dismal performance on Double 11, which consumers are being lost? Analysis suggests that the Chinese Communist Party's economic policies over the past few years have not only severely impacted domestic enterprises but also damaged foreign investors' confidence. Current affairs commentator Li Lini stated that, cracking down on the education support industry, suddenly targeting consultants from foreign consulting firms. It makes all foreign investors very afraid, leading to a continuous withdrawal from China. This withdrawal further weakens expectations for the economic future, causing consumption to further decline. The impending economic crisis is actually a combination of many factors. Stunning statistics shake CCP leadership, Beijing abandons East rises, West falls narrative. Xi Jinping's visit to the United States for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, APEC, summit has become a major talking point in the media. According to the Wall Street Journal, analysis on November 14, China is facing substantial challenges, coupled with a dwindling ambition to replace the United States as the world's leading power. As a response, Beijing is avoiding the once heavily promoted slogan of "the East is rising, the West is declining." The report highlights that China is currently dealing with a myriad of issues, including the burst of the real estate bubble, an overwhelming accumulation of local government debt that is challenging to control, and a decline in confidence among markets, businesses, investors, and consumers. Recently, the persistent shadow of deflation has become even more pronounced. China's GDP accounted for 75% of the United States in 2021, but it dropped to 64% in the third quarter of this year, closely resembling the level of 2017. There was a time when the slogan "the East is rising, the West is declining" was extensively promoted by CCP media, widely known by almost everyone. Its underlying implication was the aspiration for China, the CCP, to supersede the United States as the world's economic powerhouse. However, the long-term drawbacks accumulated in China's economy are now becoming evident, and the policies implemented by Xi Jinping are exacerbating these issues. According to the Wall Street Journal, GDP has become a crucial benchmark for measuring a country's ability to fund technological advancements, demonstrate military power, and attract other nations as partners. While the United States has recently bolstered its GDP, it cannot be complacent because its recent consumption is likely to slow down. Despite China's overall economic growth being lackluster, its manufacturing sector, which accounts for a quarter of the economic output, still poses a threat to the West economically and militarily. Due to an aging population, a slowing pace of urbanization, and diminishing opportunities to catch up with wealthier nations, China's economic growth has slowed, and the deceleration exceeds expectations. The World Bank now predicts an average annual growth rate of 4.5% for China in the next 2 years, about 1 percentage point lower than a decade ago. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, forecasts an average annual growth rate of only 3.9% for the Chinese economy over the next 5 years. In the past decade, China's development model has become excessive. During the global financial crisis of 2007 to 2009, China launched massive economic stimulus plans for infrastructure, real estate, and more. local governments and developers circumvented central government borrowing restrictions by borrowing from banks and Chinese citizens, using new financing tools to fund investments. From 2010 to 2021, China's residential construction area nearly doubled, with per capita area exceeding 400 square feet. According to economists Kenneth Rogoff and Yang Yuanchen, this level is comparable to the United Kingdom and France and double that of Japan. As a result, there are millions of vacant residences in China. Out of the world's top 100 bridges, 23 are located in Guizhou, a relatively impoverished province. According to Rogoff and Yang Yuanchen's statistics, the increase in China's high-speed rail track length is more than twice the rate of passenger growth. Developers and local governments have issued bonds to domestic citizens and banks to fund such investments, with a significant portion of this debt at risk of default. According to the IMF, 30% of local government debt may remain unpaid. The substantial reduction in land transfer fees and business tax revenues has left local governments grappling with massive deficits. In August, a report by the Rhodium Group, an independent research provider that specializes in analyzing global economic and geopolitical trends, suggested that China's fiscal capacity for funding overseas infrastructure loans related to industrial policies, defense, and the Belt and Road Initiative is much smaller than commonly believed. Recently, the CCP announced borrowing funds equivalent to 0.8% of GDP, 1 trillion yuan, roughly $137.75 billion, to support local government finances. However, this only addresses a small portion of the needs of local governments. This suggests that China could fall into a prolonged financial quagmire, similar to Japan's situation in the 1990s. Negative outcomes of CCP policies. According to Barry Naughton, an expert in China's industrial policies at the University of California, San Diego, a series of policy decisions implemented by Xi Jinping have concurrently damaged confidence and impeded the recovery of the Chinese economy. To illustrate, starting in 2020, the CCP initiated regulatory crackdowns on private enterprises in sectors like e-commerce, online education, and gaming. Ostensibly aimed at addressing privacy violations and anti-competitive practices, these measures primarily sought to consolidate control over the private sector. Naughton points out that, aside from causing the destruction of approximately $1 trillion in wealth, Xi Jinping appears to be suggesting, "I harbor a dislike for private enterprises, and I am indifferent to the destruction of value." Xi Jinping's self-sufficiency policy and wolf warrior diplomacy further undermine China's economic prospects. This has led the United States and Western Europe to adopt a de-risking strategy by imposing restrictions on strategic trade and investment with China. An IMF study, spearheaded by economist Shekhar Iyer, revealed a 60% decline in China's foreign direct investment in strategic areas in 2022 compared to 2015. Conversely, during the same period, the United States experienced a 43% increase in foreign direct investment. Beijing is confronting risks with tightening credit and worsening local finances. Inge Luong from Georgetown University's Center for Security and Emerging Technology highlights that funds directed by the government are raising less money than intended due to local debt burdens, regulatory tightening, and other economic challenges. Fundraising witnessed a 35% decrease last year compared to 2021. Is the CCP changing its attitude? As outlined in a November 13 report by Nikkei Asia, Zhao Tong, a visiting research scholar at Princeton University's Program on Science and Global Security, highlighted that recent statistical data has caught the attention of the CCP leadership. The data reveals a notable decline in China's birth rate, dropping from 1.15 in 2021 to 1.09 in 2022, the lowest among countries with populations exceeding 100 million. Simultaneously, China's economic development has experienced significant stagnation. Zhao pointed out, the Chinese leadership has only come to realize in the past few months that China is confronting unprecedented challenges domestically and internationally. Now is not the time for China to rock the boat and disrupt bilateral relations. This perspective is gaining clarity among the leadership. Diplomats from other countries are also sensing a shift in the CCP's approach. An official from an Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation (APEC) country shared with Nikkei Asia that the initial indication of China softening its stance towards the United States and its allies was apparent at the G20 Leaders Summit in India in September. While recent criticism was exchanged between Japan and China over Beijing's ban on all Japanese seafood imports at the ASEAN Summit in Jakarta, Beijing chose to remain silent when confronted in New Delhi. This official noted that this change aligns with China's economy hitting the bottom of its current cycle. The extensive lockdowns due to the prolonged 3-year COVID-19 pandemic have resulted in substantial losses. China's exports saw a 6.4% decline in October, marking the 6th consecutive monthly decrease. Pork prices plummeted by 30% that month. Despite a 2-year adjustment in the real estate market, new development projects and new home sales continue to decline. The stability of U.S.-China relations would be eagerly awaited good news for the Chinese economy, which still heavily depends on foreign trade. However, on November 14, the New York Times reported that Xi Jinping is gearing up to meet President Biden in California, with the aim of stabilizing relations with Washington. This move appears to be influenced by the pressure stemming from China's economic challenges and a desire to mitigate the impact of the CCP's diplomatic isolation. The challenge, however, lies in the deeply rooted mutual suspicion between the U.S. and China, making any easing of confrontational sentiments potentially fragile. The New York Times reported that Xi Jinping emphasized that his assessment of the challenge posed by the United States remains unchanged, expressing rare public bluntness in March. Western countries led by the United States have implemented all-around containment, encirclement, and suppression of China. Don't forget to leave a comment in the section below to share your opinions on today's topic with us. Make sure to like and subscribe to see more interesting topics from China Truths.